Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another week of Two Millennials and Mom.
It's our 20th episode.
It is our 20th episode, the big 2-0. What's going on, ladies? How are y'all this afternoon?
Did y'all think we'd get to 20?
Yes. I had full confidence in us.
Oh, I love it.
Did you not?
I don't think I thought about it that direction. And I mean, in all honesty, I think this has been harder than we thought it was. It's been fun. But it's, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but there's certainly been more content to it than I anticipated. I mean, we started this just because we were having conversations with each other and we thought we were funny.
We are funny.
We are funny.
Yeah. See, I didn't even think about it coming from like a we're funny standpoint. I felt like we were just having really meaningful, long form conversations.
Yeah.
And I thought that those would be interesting to just kind of have out in the wild.
Yeah. That's the truth. But then I can say that I'm funny.
Yeah. Also true.
I think if you throw back to our first episode, you did. I'm funny. Yeah. That's why I'm here.
It might not have been a first one, but yeah.
I think it was the first one.
Yeah,
oh, gosh.
It might have been there in Meet Tea, ma'am.
Yeah, I think it was the first one. I'll have to go back and look at the show notes for it, but I'm pretty sure. So to give everybody just a little bit of insight, so we all get together and record these, and then primarily I go through and edit them and kind of get them ready for launch. And then I send the transcript and all of the show notes to Mom and Cole, and they review them from there. And I think one of the funny parts that I have noticed is, I think we've talked about this before, when you're recording these, you kind of black out. And so, yeah, you're totally focused on what it is that we're doing here and the conversation that we're having. And you're so focused that you don't really remember exactly what you said. And so I believe it was that very first episode that I sent everything over. And one of the pull quotes in there was, I'm a real hip mom. That's why I'm here. And she was like, I didn't say that. And I was like, yes, you did. And she's like, no, I didn't.
Sure, I wouldn't have said that.
And so then I had to physically pull up the actual episode and the recording and prove to her that she had said this, in fact. And she was like, oh.
There are numerous times where I thought I did not say that, but then you have the proof of it.
Every time
that I did.
I mean, we could really throw a wrench in it and I could be like, oh yeah, I'm just putting you all together as a deep fake and I'm just making you say whatever it is that I want.
That would be interesting.
Not happening. I actually have to classify. When I post them, I have to classify. This is not AI generated content. This is all real. It has been pretty funny.
Have you had fun?
I've had a blast.
Yeah, it's been really enjoyable. There have been some parts of it that were hard, that were difficult, but
yeah.
I mean, doing hard things is good for you.
Yeah.
And I've had more fun than I have not.
I think that we've also found that it definitely takes some time. I mean, not just the recording time, and we've certainly got better at that despite some technical difficulties, but there's the planning time of what are you going to do next and what is that content going to look like and what do we need to know to be able to talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's the part that I underestimated the most.
Yeah, me too.
But it's funny to me, though, just because, Cole, that's one of the things that you said in the very first episode. I'm really looking forward to getting in and doing the research and all of this. And then it's like the podcast has given us an excuse and an opportunity as well as a need. It's created a specific need for us to go and do more research and be more educated, pay more attention to what's going on in the world and around us. And I don't know about you guys, but there have certainly been a few moments in the last few weeks, especially that I've wanted to bury my head in the sand. And then we go and start talking about oligarchies. Yay!
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
so there have certainly been some moments of kind of taking that research and being more informed and more educated on various topics that I don't want to say that we wouldn't have been before, but maybe not so deeply.
I was going to say deeper than we would have for sure. And
Which I think is a good thing.
I was going to say, I don't think that's a bad thing.
There have also been a couple of times where we've stopped ourselves from having what we would have normally had a conversation on. Like, oh no, wait, that's great podcast material. So hold off. Don't talk about that yet. To put that down. And that's been kind of funny because, I mean, trying to get the three of us to shut up is a challenge in itself.
Yeah. Ain't that the
also
truth?
True.
So.
No, you mentioned technical difficulties, Mom, and I just kind of want to point out that's one of the things that has been part of the time sink for us, I feel like, is just learning how to use the tools that we have. And so we're doubling it up. We're trying to learn these technical methodologies and these electronics and tools. And at the same time, we're also trying to go and do research on government debt and spending and Luigi Mangione and what's going on there and think about our feelings and our opinions on all of these things. And it's been much bigger time sink than I first thought it was going to be. And doing the research on some of this stuff is hard. Sometimes it's really hard to find the information that you're looking for, because somebody may say it one way and somebody may say it another way, and those two don't really jive. And so, I mean, Callie, I remember that one day where we were doing research for oligarchies weeks before we even actually started recording it. And I got so frustrated because one document said this and another document said this. And I think it was about like the surplus. And I spent like
the Clinton
2 hours
administration
just being angry that one graph said that there was a surplus, but on the graph, it didn't show that there was a surplus. And it just, the little things like that I get sidetracked on has been one of the things that surprised me more than I thought it would.
Okay, I think one of my biggest surprises is we did a recording and then we had an argument, a really good argument off the screen and right after. And it took us a little while to dig down to figure out what had happened and why. And not that anybody will be surprised, but there were definitely tears in that. And I mean, we had to
on this show. No,
we had to walk away from each other for a little while because it was like, I don't know why that's a thing. And we don't do that very often. We don't have those kind of disagreements very often. And so
knockdown, drag out kind of things.
It wasn't a knockdown, drag out. It just was, I mean, there were tears.
There were tears and like 3 or 4 days that had to go by before we could even have a conversation about it.
Well, that's true. Maybe not 3 or 4, but there were definitely a couple of days.
We recorded on a Saturday and didn't speak about it again until Wednesday.
Yeah. And
who's counting?
I was. My feelings were freaking hurt, guys. They're not now, but it definitely took a minute for us to step back and kind of refocus on A, what was important in life in general, not just the podcast, and B, in that conversation and how to have it. You know, one of the things that I've said about this from the very beginning, this whole thing started from our ability and desire to have respectful disagreement. And we talked about it in that very first episode. That was certainly my goal, is to showcase that. I mean, Cole talked about it in one of the other episodes about everybody is worried about getting together because you have that weird uncle or that weird relative that's going to bring up politics and ruin Thanksgiving dinner. We actively went into this pursuing those moments. And I'm not by any means saying that we're not going to continue doing that, but sometimes that hurts your heart. Sometimes it's really heavy. And we're real people. we're real people who really do love each other and really do have these conversations on and off the podcast. And so because of that, sometimes our feelings get hurt. And I think that we've had a couple of instances where all of us have been hurt in this situation or that, in accordance with this podcast and what we were doing or what we were saying.
Yeah. But like you said, I think that was kind of why we did all of this to begin with, was to have those hard conversations, knowing that they were going to be hard. But I think we've done a very good job about, and I think you were the one who said this in that first or second episode when we were talking about the power of respectful disagreement. It's mandatory to have those conversations, and it's okay to disagree. The important part is just keep coming back to the table.
Yeah.
And it was really hard that day, though, to walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, we struggled with walking away, but it was the best thing that we could do at that point.
Yeah.
But it hurt. And this one has surprised me. There's a couple of things that have surprised me, especially about Cole. One is that Cole has the worst potty mouth of the three of us, I would say. I'm second.
In everyday normal speech, I swear significantly more than either one of you.
Until you get on the podcast, and then it's like he's just totally clean.
He just turns it off. It's a light switch.
Yes. And we didn't even realize it until we started listening. The other thing that has completely cracked me up, I mean, as a mom, is the number of people who have brought up Cole's voice.
Oh, yeah.
Cole has the sexiest voice. And I mean, it's been from, generally it's been from older women, which has just really several. I mean, it's not a one-time thing. No. And so it's just been really funny. I think the other thing is the perception that, Callie, you and I kind of gang up on him. Mm-hmm. And I don't normally see that, but this is definitely defined that his views are just a little bit off of ours, and so that's been really funny because we've had to define some of that a little bit in the course of our conversations. I think we've all come to hating the term left and right.
Republican and versus Democrat.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I just would like to just poke people when they go, oh, that's just a leftist thing to do.
So liberal.
Yeah. Those words. And I think we've also come to recognize that those definitions are not very clean.
No.
Woke is not well defined. Left is not and it's not always synonymous with Democrat. And so as we've had these conversations, those things have certainly really presented themselves in front of us. And we've had to have conversations about them and think about them. So,
well, I mean, because in everyday life, they're projected as being so defined, but in reality, they're much blurrier than that.
Yeah, much more fluid. And depending on who you're talking to, it could be a totally different perspective or vantage point. Even I am a Democrat and this is what I believe. Whoa, I can't go there. And what that all looks like and means across the board is a lot more fluid than I think I ever realized.
Yeah, for sure.
It's in reality, it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
There's a scale there, but what gets talked about and looked at is just two blocks.
Right.
It's either blue or it's red.
Yeah.
But nobody talks about the purple that's between those two.
Right.
And all of the different shades of purple between those two.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I found myself much more, if I'm having a conversation, definitely stating I am not a Republican and I am not a Democrat. Just to feel like, okay, I'm setting myself here. I'm not on either side. So we can have a conversation.
I've also found myself able to have those conversations. I don't know if you heard me while I was talking yesterday, Mom, but even yesterday, I was talking to some friends while I was working on my computer, and I've found myself able to detach my emotions from the ideas and sentiments that I have, to try and project those ideas in a more calm and level manner, just to say, I understand why you're thinking about it this way. Have you thought about it this way instead of coming in and saying, oh, well, you're thinking about it wrong. You should be thinking about it this way.
Yeah.
And the response in those conversations has been wildly different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
And there's still
that part has
passion
really
and there's
helped
still
us. Yeah.
emotion there, but it is much easier to come to a point where you say, I understand why you see it that way, and hopefully you now understand why I see it this way, and that there's a whole lot more nuance to all of these topics than just saying, I am right and you're wrong.
The pathway to education is a lot smoother, much less clunky.
Yeah.
And even if that's not education,
Less
even
abrasive,
on
maybe.
facts,
Yeah.
but education on perspectives and why somebody feels one way or the other. Educational.
Clarification even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say, going back to voices just for a second, the three of us walked in somewhere. The three of us walked in somewhere, to my dad's retirement party. And we met for the first time one of his coworkers, and we all introduced ourselves. Hi, I'm so-and-so. Hi, I'm so-and-so. And she goes, I know who you are. I recognize you by your voices. I listened to the podcast. And I was floored.
Yeah. I had no idea that she was listening and avidly listening.
Yes.
But, and I think that's the other thing is it has opened up some relationships. And we've had a conversation about this because we've been vulnerable. Yeah. I think that has made other people respond to us in a different manner, more even, I don't want to say vulnerably, but more openly, because they've listened to us and kind of feel like they know us differently, better something like that. Sure. And that's been really fascinating. I've loved that part. That's been one of my favorite results.
I'm curious, what has y'all's favorite episode been so far?
I still love the AI chatbot episode. I don't know that I would classify it as my favorite of all of them, but I loved that one. I think I loved that one because I came in not knowing having any clue about what it was. And so I felt like you guys did a really good job of helping me better understand and educate me a little bit more. But I also think that my reaction to it and to the AI chatbots, this is going to sound so arrogant, but if I'm being really honest, I think was funny. Immediately making a comparison to opioids and things like that.
I started to say, surprising would be the word that I would use. Y'all have shocked me a couple of times.
Yeah.
And that was one of them.
Well, and Cole talking about like you being surprised that we weren't totally on board with AI chatbots and it being because we see technology as a tool. And I mean, there were several things like that in that conversation that I just felt like I don't think that any of us were necessarily expecting. And I loved watching us work through the ups and downs of that, navigating that. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved that someone asked us to do a podcast on Luigi Mangione. And it was such a hard subject. And it was, there just wasn't an easy answer. And so that one was interesting. I will say this for my friends when I go in and go, oh, the kids and I are doing a podcast, and they'll go, oh, what is it? I'll go, but now there's one about swearing. Y'all have to be careful about it.
She warns everyone.
Everyone. So because, funny. I just feel like we were pretty verbal. You call it that.
First and foremost, though, we were having a conversation about where we all felt and stood on politicians swearing and that becoming more commonplace. Now, that said, I'm going to go ahead and tout it. We have one in the hopper that is about swearing more generally, about all of us swearing and everything like that.
Does it make you smarter?
Does it make you smarter? And I am so curious as to how I'm excited about it.
I think that one's going to be a lot of fun.
I do too.
And I'm also just a little bit hesitant because I do warn everybody about the swearing one. Then now we're having a second one that I'm thinking, oh, do we have a pattern here? So,
yeah, it makes us smarter. Stay tuned for the next episode.
no kidding. No kidding.
I'm with you, Gig. I really liked AI and chatbots. I think it's my second favorite, though. I think my favorite one is the one where we got to bring Trey in.
Yeah.
Our first guest.
Yeah, our first guest, just because I feel like I probably don't talk to Trey as much as I should. And so getting to kind of grill him and ask him his feelings on things when we were growing up that I never took the time to when we were younger was really, really interesting. And so I had a lot of fun on that one, just getting to kind of hear his answers and watch and hear the gears turn in his head while he was thinking about those answers. That one was a lot of fun for me. I think that one is my favorite.
I think it was also very interesting because at that point we were pretty confident with where we were going and what we were going to do with it. But when you first watched him, he was very quiet and very, what's the word? Reserved. And then to watch him kind of open up about it and get into it and have that conversation, it was a lot of fun with him.
Well, and Cole, I think you said it really well a second ago. We don't always have super vulnerable conversations. And when we're getting together for a holiday or for a dance recital or whatever it may be, a game night, we may be sitting there chit-chatting, but it tends to be a little bit more surface level in general, just due to the scenario, just due to the setting. And that gave us a real opportunity to dig a little bit deeper and an excuse to dig a little bit deeper. And I think that was really fun. And Mom, I think that you're absolutely right. That was several episodes in. And so we kind of had our feet planted. We knew what to expect. We know how to interrupt each other and when to talk over each other. And coming in as somebody who's never done but coming in as somebody who's never done anything like that, he didn't have a clue. And I'm not 100% sure that we really prepared him for that.
Oh, no, I don't think we did.
I don't
think we did.
Somebody for that. At least we were not in a state where we were able to prep him.
Yeah, we were not that good at it yet. And I'm not saying that we could have a guest tomorrow and it would be any better. But
technically, we've had a second guest.
Technically our first.
Oh, was he first?
That's true.
Yeah.
I think he was the first. Our Peeping Tom cameo. Well, he did, just not in a microphone. So
as he appeared and then went back and then appeared and then went back.
So we were sitting there recording an episode and none of us knew it at the time. None of us saw it. I mean, Mom even partook in a whole conversation with him that none of us registered. And I was going back to put together something else for that episode. And you see my dad, there's a chest right behind my mom right now. And on the other side of that chest is a door. Well, my dad comes out and he peeks around to see if he's going to be in the way. And he peeks around again. And we only happened upon it in the middle of something else. I mean, Cole and I are sitting there going on. Yeah, in editing. Cole and I are sitting there going on, chit-chatting. And Mom turns around and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I didn't know." I mean, and you can see him being like, I'm sorry. And it was hysterical. And the funniest part is I was talking to Mom about it and I was like, I just feel like that we would be remiss to not include some like call out of it, to just kind of make fun of it. And it happens to be that our dad's name is Tom. And so I called it his Peeping Tom moment. And it just, I still laugh. We did a whole short around just that little piece of it. I mean, because it was too ridiculous and too funny. So yeah, second guest Trey, first guest by accident Dad.
Yeah. It was just too right to be a Peeping Tom though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Cole, you said AI and then Trey is your first one.
Yeah, the one with Trey has been my favorite so far.
We've gotten quite a bit of comments on Mangione, and even in the last week, a response on that. And I think for that one, it feels like the news just totally died on that. They arrested him, and then that was it. It's like he's, disappeared from everything. And so, but this comment was about, they felt like he'd been framed. And I was so surprised about that then I got online and started looking, and there's a contingent there that feels like either the police planted the evidence, or that it's just too clean for him to have been found with all of that evidence there. And then, Callie, you were reading today that his attorney's trying to suppress that evidence based on
an unconstitutional search and seizure.
So, I mean, that was a hard story to do because there was just so much emotion in it, and not a clean answer. And so then to go back and think, oh, was he framed? And even to look at that from a perspective of our ages, because Cole and I had this conversation. At my generation, and this is something that I think I've found from the podcast, is that I have a tendency to be more respectful of authority, of the police, of, which is funny because I also know that there's a line there, but I guess I default to more of the police are good police than bad police. And so I start from there where y'all don't start necessarily from there.
I don't think that that's fair at all. I don't think that that's even kind of fair to say.
For me, I think it is. I think I have more inherent distrust for authority than Mom does. And so for me, I think she's pretty close. I think you're closer to the middle between us on that one. But for me, I think she's right. I think I start from a place of having an inherent distrust for authority, where she tends to start from a place of inherently having trust for authority.
I said this in a previous episode. I don't remember which one it was, but I firmly believe in I will give you the benefit of the doubt. I will trust you. I will respect you until you give me a reason not to. I come at all of these things very much from an innocent until proven guilty situation occurs. And that's the part that really kind of my knee-jerk reaction to that comment, Mom. I have no disrespect for police. I am not sitting here questioning them. I am not sitting here saying, oh, I think that they're all bad. I don't believe that. I would tell you that I absolutely agree that in the terms of police, that more of them are good than bad by leaps and bounds. That said, if you were to see me in a situation where a police officer comes in and starts accusing me of something that I didn't do, or started ruffling my feathers just for the sake of ruffling my feathers, I am faster to speak up to that and to kind of fight back on that narrative, because I have more respect for the truth than that.
Yeah.
And
so, I think that comes back to, they're pretty much human. You have to think their interactions are more often not necessarily positive. They have more negative interactions than you and I do. And I think that has to affect them. I think it has to temper. And I
think if
hate
you're
that
do that
because
job, you cannot allow that to do that. To
yes.
you.
And I was going to say,
yes.
And the sad part about that is that tempers even when they're having a positive reaction with somebody who just,
For me, on an individual to individual basis, person to person to person, I'm with Callie, where I'm going to treat you with respect until you give me a reason to not treat you with respect. I'm going to attempt to give you the benefit of the doubt. When I have an interaction with a police officer, I'm going to attempt to start it off on a positive note, being polite and being respectful. However, the institution of policing in the United States, at this point, I have relatively little respect for, because we continue to seem to have the same issues happening over and over and over again without
correction,
without reform. There
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be this correct path to correcting these interactions with people
Yeah.
that are becoming negative. I understand that police officers, if you're dealing with a criminal, more than likely you're going to have a negative interaction in that instance. But you shouldn't be treating everyone like a criminal that you interact with, because that is going to lead to more negative interactions.
Yeah, exactly. Which is exactly my point. And Mom, I think you said it really clearly in the oligarchies episode. You talked about how you were struggling to kind of accept all of that, even when the facts are sitting right there, because, and we talked about it later, because of how you grew up, because of the perspective that your family had when you grew up as a child, and watching the government be good for you and be positive and be productive. And then I think that Cole and I are more active in questioning those things. And I totally would go with you there, but I don't think that questioning those things is bad. I don't think questioning those establishments, those precedents, the history of all of that, I don't think that is a bad thing. I think that if you allow those questions to numb you to it, you turn into that police officer, like what we're talking about. Everybody's horrible. Everybody's bad. That like exactly like Cole said, that allows you to not do your job well anymore. And I feel like especially when we were talking about government debt and the oligarchies and all of that, that allowed me to have a new perspective and a more educated perspective on how this all works and where our tax dollars do go and what they actually are for and how they're used and everything, how the government is funding things, that not every single government agency is funded by tax dollars, like all of these different things. It allowed me to have a more educated perspective. And just because I think that there is government blow and there is way overspending in a multitude of ways doesn't lead me down the path to say, oh yeah, Elon Musk and what he's doing with Doge, yeah, that's awesome, do it. Like, that's crazy. But like I said in that episode, I think that would be crazy for any one person to do. Because you're a person, that allows one person to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Yeah. I mean, there is a reason we are a democratic republic and why that is important to me and to our history and to where we're going, because we have all of these different branches of government to come in and say, hey, we're going to sit here and be counterbalances and police each other so that there isn't one outweighed, skewed perspective on all of these things. I believe that that's important. I believe that that's what we're doing here with this podcast, just on a teeny tiny scale in comparison. We'd come from different perspectives to sit here and weigh each other and say, hold on, Kelly, you're out of line. You're not looking at this right. You need to look at this differently. Now, let me hear where you're coming from, but let me also give you some other information too. Let me give you my perspective as well. And I think that like I said, on a teeny tiny scale, is one of the things that I have so enjoyed about this podcast. And like you both have said, there's some hardness in that. Like, there is some emotional vulnerability that is hard. And you guys, to sit here and have those conversations and then put it out on the internet is that much harder, because then we had our conversation about we called it something like the post-election blues. And I still right now, at this very moment, and when we're recording this, I am devastated that Donald Trump is our president. I don't think he's doing a good job. I didn't think he was going to do a good job based on history and what I know about him. And I'm nervous about that. And I sat here and cried on this podcast because I was upset. And then we put it on the internet. And I think that people crying on the internet is annoying, truth be told. And then I'm crying on the internet.
And we do it all the time.
And we do it all the time. Almost every single episode. You said something about like only 10% of the time we cry. It's way more than that.
Oh, it's way more.
It's way more than that. It's a good day when we don't cry on the podcast. But
I mean, like, there was a point in time where when we were recording, my preliminary was to bring Kleenexes to both of us so that we both had Kleenexes, because I knew we were going to cry about it.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that is all a testament to we're putting our hearts and souls
laughing.
out there. I know. That's why he's not crying on the stinking podcast. That was in our New Year's resolution or our goals episode. We're trying to get Cole to cry on the podcast. One of these days, you're just going to have to go in there and kick him in the shin.
We want that, and we want him to address us as angels.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, y'all are still on this.
Well, two reasons why. Because you totally shocked us that you used
that was your go-to
phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the phrase is, you're an angel to a coworker, and yet he's never said that to Callie and I. But even
because it's a generic response that I use to say more than just thank you to people that I don't really know.
So, but I can't think of anything like you for sure give thank yous out. You dole thank yous out, no problem. But why not the you're an angel?
Well, because it doesn't really mean anything. It's just this blank, empty phrase because you mean more to me than a generic phrase that I use with strangers.
But it will forever and ever be in our lingo now because the transcript, Cole could say it, you're an angel, and it understood that. But every time Callie said it, it translated as you're an angel. And so we were like, what the heck is a urine angel? And then we would go, oh, you're an angel. And I guess the other thing that every time it comes up is Callie, when Cole is talking.
It was a brain fart, okay?
It was the F-150. And every time he goes, I don't know why you chose F-150. I mean, I wanted something really better than that.
A cool car.
I said a cool car, not like a Toyota Supra, one of the new ones, or one of the old ones, or like a Dodge Viper or a Corvette or something.
Well,
something cool.
And neither my nuclear family with you guys, nor my family here, like, we're not Ford people.
No.
I don't even know where I got an F-150 at. I don't think that they're inherently exciting. I don't even think I know anybody who drives one. Like, I don't know where I even pulled it out from. That's what I'm saying. On the podcast, you black out and say weird shit.
You do. You do.
God. I'm sorry. I don't think Ford F-150s are inherently cool. And that's not bad. It's just, I'm sorry, Cole. I should have done you better.
So now is your opportunity. If Cole's going to Thelma and Louise it off the Grand Canyon,
we'll find you a Viper. A Dodge Viper. Like, which makes so much more sense. A, you've been into them since you were a kid. B, I'm a Dodge girl anyway. I have driven a Jeep, like Stellantis in general, like have been for 20 years.
Stellantis and General, are those names of previous Jeeps?
Stellantis is the parent company that owns Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram.
Okay, got you.
But not Ford. So where the hell I got an F-150, I don't know. I walked out and I was like, Ryan, Cole asked for a cool car and I just threw out a Ford F-150. And he was like, I mean, it might as well have been a record scratch in a bar kind of thing. Yeah. Thanks for the sound effect, Mom. I appreciated that. Oh, man.
So what have we learned in 20 episodes?
Okay. I feel like in general, I have been classified by several people over a long period of time, especially here in the last several years. I've been classified as one of the most patient people in the world. Like, I would tell you that my patience is very good. I can sit there and wait. I am not in any hurry. I'm pretty patient. But I would tell you that this podcast and doing stuff with you guys has really stretched my patience. And I mean that in the best way. It has made me more patient. As I'm editing, I tend to get in a hurry. Okay, come on, guys, move it along. What were we talking about? We were droning on. And I've gotten more, what is the word that I'm looking for? I've gotten more cutthroat with any kind of edits. Okay, Callie, nobody gives a shit what you're talking about. And I cut out 3 or 5 pages worth of transcripts because no one cares.
Ruthless. We do
Yes.
tangent periodically. sometimes.
Yes. And so I
also.
feel like I have become more patient with myself and with you guys to, okay, let me hear your perspective. I don't agree with you, but let me hear you out. And I think that patience has kind of boiled over into other things. Okay, let's work on the various shorts and see what makes sense. Okay, I really like this. What do y'all think? Oh, you don't like it. Well, crap. Okay, so what do you think? Where's your opinion on this? And hearing that feedback and taking that feedback kind of to heart and being more patient with reconfiguring whatever it is that I've done or I've worked on, because my opinion isn't the only one who matters. My opinion isn't the only one that is valid. And taking that kind of step back out of my own way so that we can thrive and the podcast can thrive, not so much so that I can be proud of what I did, because I'm going to be proud of it either way. But there's more that can be accomplished when I get out of my own way.
Yeah. I think you really hit the nail on the head on that one, Gig. Getting out of your own way. And it's something that I still struggle with a lot. But like I was talking about earlier, being able to come to those conversations from a calm and cool level and allow someone else to get their thoughts and opinions out without just saying, no, you're wrong. To say, okay, I see where you're coming from. Now, can I show you where maybe here's a spot that you've missed in your thinking, or here's how I think about it. And being able to approach those conversations in that manner that prevents that chasm from widening between you two and brings it closer. Even if you're still on opposite sides of the canyon, you're building a bridge towards each other and not just setting the canyon on fire and saying, well, you're on that side of the canyon, so we're enemies, period. I think that's
I think
deal.
you've made us all recognize common ground
Yeah, I was just going to say.
more. Not just the diversity, but you've really emphasized common ground. And I see you do that with conversations related to some of our podcasts, not just with us, but with people that you're talking to about our podcast, that you address that common ground, which I think is really great.
A super powerful tool when you're having those hard conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, you said something in one podcast episode about how we may disagree on points 1 and 10, but if we stop the conversation just because we vehemently disagree on those, we miss that we have similarities on 2, 3, and 4, and that we're completely aligned on 5, 6, and 7. I think Mom's totally right. You have done a really good job, Cole, of helping me spot the commonalities and recognize them and give credence to them so that I can use them as a foundation in which to build the next little piece of the conversation onto. So good job. Thank you.
So probably our number one response, I'm going to say this was mostly in the shorts, was about farts.
Because they're all funny, every single one.
And I cannot tell you the
Also,
number
shout
of
out Pee Weezy.
conversations.
Thanks for the backup, my man.
Also, shout out Carolyn. Thanks for thinking that they're not all funny.
I started to say, I cannot tell you the number of conversations that have just popped in and somebody has said to me, oh no, farts are always funny. Or, oh, no, farts are never funny. I mean, and it's one side or the other side. There's no middle ground here, but it's just been hysterical that has been
a sticking point.
Even the topic of conversation.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's just been hysterical.
We were having a conversation the other day about something not anywhere close to farts. And we were like, okay, see you later, and turned and walked away. And she turned around and she's like, just FYI, not every fart is funny. It's like, noted. Thank you.
It's become a thing.
It's become the
not a
stupidest
thing that I want to have, but it's become a thing.
Oh,
so
yes.
That's been really funny.
That has been really funny. But
So with the shorts, I mean, and we've given Cole a shout out, so I'm going to give you a shout out too, because you've done a fabulous job of setting our shorts up, and some of them have been funny, and some of them have been tearful,
Yep.
and very vulnerable, but they've certainly gotten us some traction and have pulled out moments of that whole conversation that we've had. So thank you for doing those for us and recognizing, when you can do that and what makes a moment in time.
Yeah, it's certainly been fun. And, like Cole said at the beginning, a learning experience. And I didn't know how to make a YouTube short. I didn't even know YouTube shorts were a thing. And so it's been really fun kind of making them and putting them together and seeing what's productive and what people are responding to, even on various different platforms, who responds to what and which ones gain traction, and watching the analytics of it all and kind of nerding out over here. It's a great time.
See, I was
I
just thinking about nerding out in a completely different way with all of like the electronics and stuff that we've been getting, and the sound engineering portion of things has been absolutely fascinating to me. It's something that like I've always kind of known about, but haven't really looked at in a long time. And so now kind of dipping my toes back in relearning a lot of that stuff. And there's so much of it to learn, has been really interesting to get back on the technical side of things.
I will say Cole and I were on the phone the other day having a whole conversation about various different technology pieces and setups and all of these things. And Mom didn't realize that we were on the phone, and she could just hear him talking, and he's using his client voice. And she said it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours in before she realized that it was me he was talking to and not somebody that he had to be polite. And he's just sitting there teaching me about this, and he's very patient, and here's this. And I for sure ended the conversation with, Cole, thank you so much for teaching me all of this. I'm not promising to retain any of it, but I'm going to try. But he's done a great job at keeping us audible, for sure.
So it has been fun. It's been entertaining. It's been vulnerable. I'd do it again. Yeah, I'd do it again.
Well, I certainly hope
Okay.
so, because I feel like there was a moment in the beginning of this episode where we were getting ready to tell everybody that we're signing off and this has been a good time and see you later. And that's not the case.
No. It was a celebration of 20.
Yeah. I have one
20
more
episodes.
question before we get into weird thoughts and good news. And I think we've probably kind of already touched on these a little bit, but I would like to know, like, specifically for each of you, what has been the hardest part so far?
The conversations have not been hard because we've been having these kinds of conversations, but the depth of them is different. Feeling responsible to be smart about them and intelligent about them, to have some background, has been hard. The technology definitely I have struggled with. I mean, it makes me mad every time I have to reset and go, yes, I already have this on. Which output, which input just is making me, because it should be set. And so that part has been difficult. The time factor is a lot more than I think any of us anticipated it to be.
I think for me, kind of piggybacking off of that last part that Mom just said, it has been kind of determining where to prioritize my time and what makes the most sense putting a big chunk of effort and energy into. I said this to y'all the other day when we were kind of talking about, are we still enjoying this? Do we want to keep going? Making sure that everybody's still game. But I learned something new. I do a couple of things. So I'm listening to the episode to get it all edited. And then Mom's going through the transcript and things like that. And then later, I mean, it may be weeks later, I listen to them on my Alexa just as a listener. And that part has been, it sounds so arrogant, but that part has been so fun. Listening to yourself on a podcast is weird for sure. But
Yeah.
I love the conversations that we're having, and listening to those podcasts, listening to our podcast later has made me better understand you guys and your perspectives as well as my own. And if I would have said it like this, that would have come across much cleaner. If I would have explained this better, then maybe they would have understood where I was coming from. And I feel like just kind of trying to prioritize in the front end kind of part of it of, do I need to prioritize myself and my time on building the show plan for the next episode? Or do I need to prioritize editing it and making it perfect so that it's entertaining and enjoyable to listen to? Or, well, do we look like idiots here? Or does this really make sense?
Sometimes.
Or how many times did we say like this episode or shit this episode? All have been counted, just for the record. Like putting it out on social media. I have loved, and that's why I'm behind right now. Our shorts only go up through episode 9 or 10 because I was listening to our episodes and I was like, man, I wish more people knew about this and could listen to these, because they're fun conversations and they're interesting conversations from unique perspectives that you don't have anywhere else. As a marketer, my whole career and all is based on getting the word out about various things and sharing information in various aspects so that people can understand things better or like things better, that it means something to them in their lives. And I was listening to these episodes and I wanted a way to share them more and share bits and pieces of them more. And so I started putting together the shorts, and they're time consuming and they take a really long time to put together. But the payoff is there and the payoff is good. And like I said, I like geeking out over the analytics. So knowing how and when to prioritize my time and what makes the most sense has been the hardest thing for me, because I think at the end of the day, and I'm really kind of disappointed to admit this to you guys, I think I'm probably more of a perfectionist than I would care to admit. And I want everything
genetic.
to be good. I want everything, and that's not even true. I want everything to be great. I want every edit to be perfect, and I want us to know exactly what we're going to do and have everybody on the same page when we go into the episode. And I want everybody to be excited about it from the short and want to go listen to every single episode. And I want the episodes to be and so I'm struggling, and I think I'm getting better, but I'm struggling with just prioritizing my own time as to what makes the most sense and what is actually the most important, rather than just everything has to be perfect. You need to kill yourself in order to make this happen.
I get that. Did you say it's genetic?
Yeah, because I feel the same way. Like when I'm working on a project or something, I want it to come out perfect. And so I will, and that's something that I struggle with, is prioritizing the things to get it out and make it good, to get it out in a timely manner, compared to getting stuck because I can't get something just right.
Yeah. And I have a project manager background. And so keeping everything efficient and all of this has thrown a whole new workflow into my brain as to what makes sense in what order and how you do this. And so Cole was having technical difficulties when we were screen sharing something the other day. And so I'm like, okay, let me go and finish these up while he's doing that. I'm going to do this so that I can get this done. And that's going to be knocked down. Let me get this one prepped for the next episode so I don't have to think about it. And so I have said on this podcast numerous times, progress over perfection. And I very adamantly believe in that as a concept, and find myself struggling. And I think it's because I'm so excited about what we're doing, and I'm so excited about doing this with you guys. I want it to be perfect. And then we sat here and talked even just earlier this week. The part that makes it so unique and interesting is the fact that it isn't. Is that it is organic, is that it is all from different perspectives and our opinions, and opinions are not perfect. That is the subjective nature of them. And so just kind of, I'm working on getting out of my own way to be excited about it and allow other people to be excited, even if their excitement doesn't match mine, doesn't mirror mine.
Hey, what's your answer?
It has been much more difficult than I initially expected to.
Because we beat up on you all the time?
No, no, this is more on the, I'm used to that. No, for me, I think it's one of the more difficult aspects. I did not expect it to be as hard as it has been to get us all to sync up, technologically speaking.
Yeah.
When it's like two of us will get set and then something will happen to the third one. And then I'll have to run over and fix whatever or figure out what is causing the third one. And then I'll come back and one of the other two has broken, and trying to manage that remotely is not always the most straightforward thing. And so, like yesterday, Callie and I spent an hour and a half talking to each other about one piece of equipment, just trying to figure out how it works, so that, because I have a working knowledge of how it operates, but because I don't have it here in front of me and can't look at it, I'm having to talk her through, okay, look for XYZ, and then, okay, you don't have XYZ, so it must be a different model number. Let me go find that real quick. And so trying to not only learn what we need, but then also trying to manage it remotely has been a much bigger challenge than I first thought it would be. I was a little bit more confident in my knowledge and ability to do that at the start off. So it's been a little bit of a Dunning-Kruger effect, where at first I was like, oh, this will be really easy, I can do this. And now the more I learn about it, the more I'm just like, I don't know anything about any of this stuff.
Well, and I tend to ask him like really dumb questions. And I'm like, Cole, do I need to turn this off? And he's like, I don't know. Let me go look. I have no idea. I mean, and it's things that in a normal use case, it would be a really simple answer. Yes, Callie, turn that off. But we don't know. It's so foreign, and mine is different than his. And I mean, we're just learning, and he's done such a great job of sharing and relaying that knowledge and doing it with inordinate amounts of grace and patience. I mean, just, okay, this is what it is. I'm not sure. Let me go look. Let me check.
For the 900th time, Mom, it's this.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's never said it rudely.
No.
So, yeah.
I make
definitely
fun of you a little bit here and there.
Gentle
do
ribbing.
what?
Gentle ribbing.
Yeah. I definitely would not do this without the two of you. Even though we did have our first episode without one of us because someone was ill. And so we went on and did our own. And so.
But I'm back now. I'm alive, baby.
We'll see how, what kind of response, and not only from Cole to our content, but how it comes across if we get booed out of the arena or something, Cal. Surely not. Okay. So our other challenge really in some regards has been, and I find myself throughout my week going, oh, here's a weird thought. Oh, here's a good story. And just, I mean, I'm shooting messages or printing something out to remind me of good stories or weird thoughts. And we've had some weird thoughts.
I think the weird thoughts are, like, by and large, much easier to find than the good news stories. Like, because I can come up with a weird thought any day of the week. No problem.
Which is a sad statement. We want good news stories. So those have kind of been a challenge, but we continue to feel like they're important. And even though Callie and I cry through half of them,
at least,
suck it up.
Yeah.
It's just, you were saying something to somebody the other day and talking about if your feelings just happen to fall out of your eyes. And I go, if I leak, that's just it. I mean, it's just a leak. Yep. So anyway, thanks for doing this with me. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Having a blast.
Me too.
Okay.
Guys.
Speaking of, what's our weird thought today, Mom?
Our weird thoughts are the 6 things that ER doctors wish that you would avoid.
Ooh, I'm not going to like these, am I?
One of them definitely called you to called you because your sister came in one day and went, oh my God, Mom, he scared me to death. Don't slice an avocado in a hurry. So
you know what you're doing.
There are a lot of ER accidents about how somebody sliced an avocado. Cole was doing it the other day on a hard avocado, apparently slicing
against his body.
Yeah.
And I was
And
like,
she
None of the
came
knives in our
in
kitchen are that
like,
sharp.
oh my God, Mom.
I had to stop looking at you. I was like, I can't even watch you right now. There has been research done about millennials having more avocado injuries because of all of the avocado toast. And so I was sitting there and I was like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And then I watched Cole open this avocado and I was like, oh my God, that's why. He's why.
He's why.
It has been a while since I've cut myself with a knife in the kitchen. I'm pretty good.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Okay. Don't use a trampoline. They're just a broken bones factory.
Yeah.
This one was interesting. Don't pet strange dogs.
I think
And
that's an excellent piece of advice.
I think the whole point, though, was that unfamiliar dogs and getting in their face. And I wouldn't think about people doing this, but don't get your face down with the dog. And so I thought, oh, that's
well. And let me just say, people are really stupid. Like when I had Watson, who was a German Shepherd, when I had him in an apartment complex in Midtown in Houston, he didn't like new people. And he wasn't barking at them and making a scene. He would literally, this grown dog, 110-pound dog, well-behaved, would hide and cower behind me. And somebody'd be like, oh, no, dogs love me. I'm like, he doesn't. Back up. You're going to lose your hand. This is a bad idea. Move. And I can't tell you how many people I literally had to put my hand in their chest and say, no, stop, go away. He doesn't want you to touch him. I mean, and it's so obvious.
You don't do that to people.
Right. Well, this was interesting too. Most dog bites in the U.S. are inflicted by pets, not strays.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of surprised me. Don't ignore sudden symptoms. So if you get seriously ill, this says chest pain or paralysis of a body part. Do people really not pay attention to those paralysis of a body part? Anyway,
I mean, Cole
go
stands
to the
up
ER.
and 9 times out of 10 is about to fall down because what is that called when your blood rushes from your brain so fast that you literally get dizzy?
I can't remember what it's called.
Yes, it's called gravity. Yes. Cole has gravity. Yes, that's it.
Okay. And I'm bad
Shithead.
about this one. Don't ride without a helmet. So remember, this is an ER doctor saying this. And what really kind of started this out as a funny one is do not wear Crocs in snowy or icy weather. And
They have
so many injuries because people are wearing Crocs and they have no tread and no traction. And so they come in with broken ankles or things because they, we're just trying to walk across the driveway.
Well, and they weigh nothing. And so there's no ankle support or anything like that. And so when you fall, then they fly everywhere. And it's just a whole mess.
Yes. So don't wear Crocs in icy weather. Don't pet your neighbor's dog.
That's not what it says. Don't pet strange dogs. You can pet the neighbor's dog once it knows you. If
and that's
it
the
is
thing.
comfortable with that.
If there is a dog that you don't know, you have to get that dog comfortable with you first.
Yes.
Before you can pet that dog. You can't just run up and start. But, I mean, it's just like how if I walked up to a stranger on the street, I wouldn't start petting them unless I made them into my friend.
Not. I don't think you need to be petting even people that you know on the street.
I was just going to say.
I mean, in some circumstances, I'll give Nate a pat or two.
But still, you wouldn't go up and hug a stranger just for fun. You'd get whacked.
Fair. Which is how you should treat dogs. Dogs
I agree.
Tend to be a little bit easier to become not a stranger to. But you still have to go through that process.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly.
Just a little segue. One of my favorite hugs with a stranger because she hugged a neighbor and I asked her if she was giving out free hugs today. And she said yes. And it was absolutely adorable that she gave me a hug. So maybe you can hug strangers if you see them hugging somebody else. Maybe.
If you ask for permission and make them not strangers anymore.
I did ask for permission. And then I got worried because Jackson was with me who doesn't like other people. And it didn't faze him in the slightest, even though he just growled at another neighbor. So, okay. good news story today, y'all. This is so sweet. A Pennsylvania man, he is 87 years old. His name is Doug Turner, and he hands out invitations to his neighbors to come to a party. It went viral because the young neighbor that had only been living on the block for about 5 months and she'd seen him but didn't really know him or anything. He brought her a piece of paper. When she unfurled it, it was an invitation to come to a party because his goal was just handwritten, just to get the neighbors together so that they know each other. And he didn't want to leave it in the mailbox. So he knocked on the door and handed it to her. And the words was, a celebration of winter, 4 p.m. until the cops arrive. He's 87. That just cracks
wild.
me up.
So she put it online and was like, guys, my neighbors just brought me this invitation. Like, you have to see how cute this is, and shared it. And it went viral because who doesn't want an invitation from their 87-year-old neighbor to feel included? I thought it was the coolest
until the cops
thing.
come.
Hell yeah.
And the really sweet thing is his 67-year-old daughter was asked about it, and she suggested that people send him notes because he really likes getting mail. So she gave out a mailbox so that you could send a note to him because he would just enjoy it.
I love it.
Isn't that the sweetest thing?
I love
That's
that.
really sweet.
He's way more social and has way more friends than I do, his daughter said.
We should all be more like him. What was his name?
Paul Turner, I believe.
Be more like Paul.
Yeah, sweet story.
Inclusive and kind and
Party
trying
till
to
the
get to
cops
know
come.
everybody. Party till the cops come. I love that.
So, well, congrats you guys on our 20th episode.
20 episodes.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. I love you even more.
To the next 20.
Another 20.
Love you guys.